Hi, this is Tim and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at a few ways that we can spice up our pentatonic scales, our minor pentatonic scales. There's a few things that we can do. There's a lot of videos floating around on YouTube. I felt that a lot of these, when I was looking at them, they were going into too much depth about things like harmony and theory and scales, and I didn't think that they were particularly useful. Some were excellent. There was a lot out there that relied on a lot of music theory. We're going to learn how we can spice up our pentatonic scales without learning any theory, without learning any new scales, so we can dive right in and spice everything up. So let's get to it. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at sliding and bending. Bending is a lesson that I could do an entire lesson on this. I really feel that this is an area that most people need to work on, but that's for another day. We're going to look at sliding from notes that aren't in the pentatonic scale so that it really catches people's ear. That's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to stick with the notes that we already know and notes that are within the scale or within the key even. We're looking at notes that are outside and we're sliding in, and it's going to really give that little spice. It's really going to spice things up. Exactly the same thing goes for bending. We're not going to be looking at notes that we bend from a good note into another good note. We're going to be looking at a horrible note, but we're going to be looking at questionable notes that we're then going to bend into notes that are quite pleasing to the ear. Second thing we're going to look at is we're going to fill in all the gaps of the minor pentatonic scale. So if you don't know the minor pentatonic scale, I probably should have started with this, but you're going to need to know it. Just position 1, it sounds like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at adding all the notes that sit in between. There's one note that sits in between that you are probably familiar with if you're a seasoned blues player or jazz player, which is the flat 5. These aren't notes that we're going to dwell on or sit on, much like with the bending and sliding. Some of them are going to be a little bit questionable and I'm going to sound a bit odd to the ear. We're going to use it just to catch people's ear, and then we're going to kind of move into more familiar territories. Third idea, this is a really cool idea, this is probably one of my favourites, is rhythmic ideas. A lot of people talk about how do we spice up our pentatonic scale, and they start adding these notes in. Well, add in the flat 5 or the second or the flat second or the flat 6, and that's all great, but without even learning any new scales, without even adding any new notes, sticking just with the 5 notes that everybody's happy and familiar with, we're just going to look at different ways we can play it rhythmically. And that again can have just a profound impact. And that can have just a profound impact. No, that doesn't sound right. Just a profound impact. Just as a profound. It's starting to sound weird. Why does it sound weird? And that can have just as a profound impact. I think that's right. That can't be right. As playing notes that, as playing notes. So that's another cool. Rhythmic ideas, really cool. Not many people do that. Fourth idea, repeating licks. If you're into pentatonic playing or if you're into blues playing and hard rock playing, there's a lot of lines that get repeated, usually 3 or 4 notes that get repeated very, 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 very quickly. And it's usually just the same 4 notes or the same 3 notes. And that's fine, that sounds great, sounds awesome, and it works. But what we're going to do is we're just going to change one note. And we're not going to change it for long, just for a little bit. And again, it's just going to have this kind of impact that people are they won't notice it necessarily until they either get shown it or they try and work out what it is that you're doing. And then people are going to sort of think, whoa, that was pretty cool. So repeating lines, and we're just going to change one note. The fifth thing we're going to do, and this is kind of a few different things, we're just going to look at adding something that's kind of really out there. So we're looking at adding some tapping, and we're going to look at using some kind of odd object. We can use like a slide makeup brush. This isn't actually mine, this is my wife's. Tremolo arm. Beer bottles are quite good. If you can get a beer bottle, you can kind of use that as a slide. It's quite impressive, and you can sometimes get a free drink out of it if you're old enough. So that's it, let's get straight to it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is some slides and bends. So if we're taking our pentatonic scale here, what we can do is we can just slide into certain notes to just give it a bit of colour. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start here at the 11th fret on the E string, and we're just going to slide into the 12th fret. And then you can just run a lick. That kind of thing. So you can literally just take any note that's in the scale and slide into it from somewhere else. That's an idea. The next thing you can do is you can just take the exact same idea, but instead of sliding, you can bend. So if we took this note here, we're just going to bend up to the 12th fret, E flat up to E. One thing you don't want to do is bend back down to that note. So if you start here on E flat, you're going to bend up to E, then you're going to cut it off. You're going to cut it off with the blade of your hand here. Then you can see that. So you're picking, and then you're moving away. And you're using this hand, your right hand, to dampen it. So you just get used to maybe practicing that. So you don't want to be going. Depending on what the chord is underneath, it's really going to depend on what note you're bending to. So if you're playing over an E minor chord, that's going to sound cool, because you're bending to an E note over an E chord. So we've got some bends and some slides. That kind of thing. Okay, the inside notes, number 2. So we're just taking the pentatonic scale, and we're going to colour in all the notes in between that sit in between this note and this note. And we're just looking at ways that we can fit this into our playing. So a few little ideas. Okay, number 3, some rhythmic ideas. This will sound a little more in context when you hear it to the backing track, but if you can imagine just playing notes instead of trying to start on the beat, so if you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, you can kind of hear that there's the strong beat there, but if you play it 1, 2, 3, 4, it can kind of bring something out. Okay, repeating ideas. If you're, a familiar rock player, a lick like this will sound very familiar and very at home. Something like that, we're just repeating something like that over and over and over again. What we can do is we can just change one note just to see if we can make something pop. This note here, 15th fret on the B string, this D note is a prime candidate just for moving it down a semitone. Something like that, or you can move it up a We're not looking for anything particularly melodic, we're just looking for something to pop out and catch people's ear. This is a really common pattern, or a common lick. What we're doing, and what we can do is we can just change one note, just that end note, instead of bending from the 15th fret, we're going to look at bending from the 14th fret. Just gives it a completely different feel. We can even try, if you want to get really out there, we can take this top note, and instead of it being this top E note, let's move it up to F, just for fun. Or just take it to F sharp. That sounds quite cool. You don't hear that. Okay, some other ideas. These are just things that you just want to go a little bit crazy, really. So we're just looking at adding some taps. So you don't have to be Van Halen to do this. We're just going to be adding sort of 1 or 2 little taps. So if we just took, we're going to tap here. So where are we? That's 12, 15, 17, 19th fret. size. It doesn't have to be something that you're going to continue to do. It just wants to be a little note that just pops out there. Boom. Something like that. Other things that you can do, some really strange noises. Okay, if you take a slide, usually you're expecting to see blues players kind of, that kind of thing. But if you take the slide in the other hand, the same hand you hold your pick with, and you just run it up the neck, you get some funny noises. If you dampen the string here with your left hand, cool little noises. You can do the same thing. Do the same thing with a glass, or if you have a tremolo arm. Anything that's metal, shiny, is anything that you've got sitting around the house. So that's it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compose a little solo after this. I will incorporate all of these ideas, and there'll be a tab down the bottom. As I always say, you should not learn all of these things note for note particularly or per se. What you should do is extract what you can from them and get them into your own playing as soon as possible. And then that way you will be a more creative guitarist, and that is what we are all about. Okay, so there's a couple of ideas. Hopefully it's going to send you away with some things to think about, and hopefully really try and adapt them into your own playing. All the tabs that I've tabbed out, some of these ideas which are going to be on my Patreon page, which the link is below. And yeah, head on over there, say hello, download some tab. What I'd really love to see is people sending me in some stuff of their own. See if you can incorporate some of these ideas. Yeah, go out, have some fun, be creative, be happy, and I will see you on the next video. Oh, if you're interested, you can catch me on or follow me on Instagram. Again, the link is down here. It's probably the best place to get hold of me if anybody wants to send me some videos or have any questions about any of this. And yeah, I will see you on the next video. All right, see you later. Bye.